see us sitting round the table, when from the family Bible that could read, I can hear my mother softly sing. Rock of ages, rock of ages, cleft for me. This old world of ours is full of trouble, but this world would oh so better be if we'd find more Bibles on the table, and mothers singing Rock of Ages cleft for me. I can see us sitting round the table, when from the family Bible that would read, I can hear my mother softly singing. Rock of ages, cleft for me. So what I've written here is called the Family Bible, and sometimes I write things down and I don't know what to do with them, and so I just bring it here to read it to you. It's called the Family Bible. Growing up in Eastern Kentucky was and still is an occasion of pride for me, being part of the Crisp family even more so. Our family was not a model. It was not without times of pain, dispute, backyard brawls that moved from back to side the front yard when space was an issue. Whatever else it was real. As I grow older, I see the tremendous value of being part of it all. For many years, we had a practice peculiar to our Saturday mornings. Following breakfast of homemade biscuits and gravy, we met in the living room. Monday through Friday, it was oatmeal with rich cream bought by the case. Sunday, it was pancakes. As I remember, it was syrup made from boiled water and pure cane sugar. But Saturday was always special. Prior to any other activity, we sat down together in the living room, and my dad would read to us from Family Bible. It was always him doing the reading. My dad didn't have much education. He often struggled with words. My mother could quietly and confidently give him the correct pronunciation. She had her master's degree, and she was the wisest woman I ever met. Mother had more than raw intelligence. Wisdom is much more useful. Mother never flaunted her wisdom or her wit, but she did use it to help my dad with words. So Daddy, as we called him, read and we listened. There were no interruptions. If the phone rang, it was either picked up and laid aside or just not answered. I can never remember a phone call during our times of family Bible reading and prayer. Phone calls used to be a rarity, an exception to your day, not the norm for every 5 minutes. I used to love to hear my daddy read the Bible. His rich voice was always more tender when he read to us. After he finished, we all got down on our knees to pray. Daddy prayed first, as I remember it, and he also prayed the longest and the loudest for sure. He'd begin with an inside voice and he'd conclude with an outside voice. There was actually a little bit of a sing-song to the way my daddy prayed. He picked up the pace and the volume as he went along, The rhythm was natural and genuine. At some point he hit his stride and he poured out his heart fervently. And then at some point there was a climax. It was spiritual orgasm, if you could call it that. And then he descended back, slowly tapering off in volume and pace until the last amen. My mother prayed next. Her prayers were different. She never raised her voice. She used biblical and musical phrases that seemed to melt together. She often paused, not for effect, but to gain composure, and I believe to think about what she was saying. She prayed in King James English sometimes, but it always made sense. It sounded to me like she believed what she was saying. It was comforting to listen to my mother pray. After this, my dad began to call our names one by one and waited for us to pray. Our prayers were noticeably shorter. Sometimes I listened in awe as my brothers, who beat the tar out of me the day before, talked to God like all was well. So I did the same, knowing that just yesterday I punched Rita in the left kidney and heard my brothers quote some line from way down yonder in the sycamore timber. It didn't seem to matter one iota to my dad as to our current spiritual crisis or even the bad behavior that emanated from sibling disputes. He totally ignored the fact that some of our legs bore the welts put there by the switches bunched together for good measure when we needed a whipping. My mother didn't hesitate either to be the enforcer, but she usually wept when she administered justice. Every now and then, my dad, when we were getting a whipping from our mother, would make fun of us.
Look at the blood.
Look at the blood. That's what I had when we got one from mother. To him, it was funny. It wasn't to me then, and it still isn't today. We prayed together amidst the fun and the adventures on the hill and the creek and working in the garden. We paused on Saturday mornings to read the Bible and pray. It was a few moments of serenity in a life that was marked by tribulation. Life wasn't easy for any of us as I remember it. Daddy grew up hard and lived hard as a man. Everything about life in East Kentucky was hard for most people, including religion. But I had so much to be grateful for and humbled that our family has stayed close enough to value our roots and to value prayer. We go to different churches now, yet all of us in here bear the marks of that time of family Bible reading. Mother and Daddy prayed for all of us. For Bernice, when she was an infant, Daddy told me how nothing worked, and they had taken her to the doctor and she was no better. Nothing worked. Mother went to the bedroom and Daddy went out to the car and they prayed, and she got better. For Claude, when he went off to Colorado Springs Bible College, scared them to death and scared them into fervent prayer, I believe. For Olive, when, as I remember, she was in an accident on Buck Creek and was taken by an ambulance to the hospital. For me, when my car wouldn't run because of the bitter cold on Christmas Day, and I lived in Whitesburg, I borrowed a truck from a friend, loaded up my kids and Charlene, and on a bitter cold Christmas Day, I drove to Cincinnati, called Mother and Daddy, told them. And when I got there, I called them and told them I had made it safe. And Daddy said, every little bit we went in and prayed for you. This was how they spent Christmas Day. Praying for me and my family. For Emma, when she married a Baptist.
In Tennessee.
Daddy conceded, there will be some Baptists in heaven. And
blessed assurance.
how proud they were of Stacy, the first grandchild. For Rita, when she went to Morehead State. I remember in church one Sunday night after you went, Daddy said, she's going to Morehead, and we hope when she comes back she'll also have more heart. He thought it was clever, and for him it was. But I know I heard him and Mother at night praying for Rita. For Irvin, when his appendix ruptured, partly from a kick to the groin by Ed Fannin, I believe, and they loaded him in the station wagon, as I remember, to take him to Paintsville Hospital. I was scared. Daddy drove and prayed, and Mother told him how to drive, mostly, and prayed as well. And Marvin. Daddy prayed for Marvin, and Daddy was one of the proudest men I ever saw when Marvin and Betty got married. He was so very proud on that day. We all know how Mother and Daddy prayed for us, and their prayers were answered. This is the legacy that we are given. Simple, believing, earnest prayer. It goes back to those early mornings on Saturday with the smell of fresh baked biscuits in the air, and it continues every time when I get down on my knees and begin to call out. Bernice, Olive, Emma, Irvin, Marvin, Rita, Claude, and then pray for myself. We are blessed. We may not do it like we did it then, but God is still the same. And I will be forever glad that we had those moments gathered around, listening to Daddy read the Bible, and then he and Mother leading us all in a time of family prayer. I've been thinking about this a lot.